Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually have a little bit of drama going on over here when it comes to PlayStation 5. We're actually now seeing people saying, is it even worthwhile for us to even have a PlayStation 5 Slim or the next iteration of consoles, when even as of the current console themselves are pretty much still having issues, breaking, overheating, and everything else in between. So we're gonna go talk about this, talk about the drama, talk about everything else. So if you guys will stay tuned, relax, and enjoy it as well, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. Give me your thoughts and comments down below. And of course, I appreciate y'all so much for watching. We got the Twitter and Twitch if you guys are bored. I'll probably be doing a little comfy stream on Twitch, and let's go dive into the video itself. So first and foremost, in case you guys are curious, we have had a lot of leaks and a lot of good information when it comes to the PlayStation 5's next generation. Now, this has kind of been rumored when it comes to Microsoft. As of even yesterday, we made a video on it discussing the fact of like, hey, this will probably have a PlayStation 5 Slim, and then it'll probably come out throughout this year. The rumored date is still around the September time, although officially we have not seen any official confirmation when it comes to the console, when it comes to PlayStation, which is kind of the more, I think, important part, at least in my opinion. I think it's probably like one thing to go and know, but it just kind of makes sense. It's around halfway through the life cycle. We typically see stuff like around now, give or take-ish, if you base it on the PlayStation 4 or prior generation. So a Slim is looking pretty likely. Not any major big changes on the console itself in terms of like GPU power, CPU power, or whatever, but maybe a nice little bonus when it comes to the console itself, such as just make it a little bit like maybe smaller. And some people are saying the price point may just be more fine-tuned to around the $400 price point, which is slightly more on the consumer-friendly side. But a lot of folks now are actually starting to call us out saying, hey, like my PS5 overheats a lot. Won't just the PS5 Slim just be a little bit worse? And this is where we have Yahoo Life coming in kind of crazy, saying this one. But I kind of want to chime in my thoughts because it seems like it might be a little bit on the controversial side. So basically, Sony is said to be planning a PlayStation 5 Slim version, which has been gone all around throughout the internet itself, of its best-selling console for release later in 2023, and has claimed that it'll be cheaper than the existing PS5, more akin to the price of the digital, which is also nice to $400. But a lot of folks are like, hey, do we really even need one? And the PS5 Slim, will it actually bring in more problems? Will it maybe not be fine-tuned? As we saw a lot of issues as of recently with the current generation of consoles, is there going to be a problem? Is it going to keep on overheating? Is there going to be like issues for brand new and next age games too as well? So the suggestion of a PS5 refresh comes from Microsoft on these actual court legal documents, which included its prediction in a legal documentation filed as part of the court case against the Federal Trade Commission in the United States. According to The Verge, the extract reads, PlayStation likely sells a less expensive digital edition for around $400 and is expected to release the PS5 Slim later on this year at the same reduced $399.99 price point, with as well having them have a chance to go and sell the disc editions on a secondary side. It says it's going to be a good idea. Sure, in theory, they don't want to go get rid of the disc drive or whatever, and of course, price point's not that bad, but some folks are saying, what happens to the heat itself? Because there actually has been a big issue with the PlayStation 5 overheating issues that does kind of seem like it's popping up more and more. If you guys missed, Final Fantasy 16 apparently had a lot of big issues when it came to them just making the game, when it came to them just playing games, rendering the games, and consoles themselves overheating. A lot of folks are having issues being fixed by just cleaning up their consoles and making them nice and good, which I think is very nice to see, and nonetheless, but at the same exact time, it shouldn't be happening at all. And that's kind of one of the big overhead issues is that some folks are thinking like, hey, you have a smaller console, you slim it down, which already has issues with maybe heat dissipation, the copper maybe being a little bit too big or too small depending, or as well just maybe it's just not as fine-tuned or tested, and people are worried because the consoles as of currently are still having issues nonetheless. Like people are like, bro, my console's still been like bugged up, what's going on with this? So say even though it is situated in a place where there's space around it for airflow, it can sometimes sound like it's about to go take off. A lot of you guys do remember too as well, the PlayStation 4 had similar issues where it would sound basically like a jet engine whenever things started doing that, just in general. And they even were saying, hey, when playing FIFA 23 this summer, as overall often flashed up their dreaded "your PS5 is too hot" message during games. On several occasions, it then closed down entirely. Not great during the FUT Champions Weekend League. And this has also been kind of popping up when it comes to Final Fantasy 16 and a few other the various games too as well, where some folks are being like, bro, like I wish I can go and play my games. I'll be honest with you guys though, for this like to not be a Sony hate video, I've had zero issues. My very first ever console did go and break. I've talked about this on my stream and just in YouTube videos. It's broke, like it got bricked. But then I sent in my console, and ever since then, my current replacement console has been perfectly fine. I've had basically no issues, no drama, no like anything. It's been very, very nice. It's been very chill. But apparently people have been having, especially with Final Fantasy 16, a lot of issues during big fights, a lot of animations and particle effects everywhere, and they just, well, break. Like their consoles have to go and pause. They have to go take like a 20-30 minute break to go get back to their games, and their games go and crash. They say remove the side plates, vacuum the ports and grill, and generally ensure the fan is free from dust and grime, but it still suffered even at times. Could even just be a console issue, could be whatever, but we keep on seeing more and more of these popping up. Says this leads me to be the biggest worry about a slimmer version, the heat. If a larger PS5 with dedicated heat dissipation grills and huge fan can cause problems, what happens when you try to cram into the same text into a smaller box? Which would also be a very valid thing. Like if the heat itself is not doing so well, it could lead to a lot of big issues over time. Because if the heat is, well, like sometimes you want to have a bigger space because then the heat sometimes will take longer to fill it on up. It'll make the console last longer. And at the same time, we keep on seeing them trying to make the copper wiring inside the consoles themselves smaller and smaller and smaller to, number one, help out with shipping costs and price points, but number two, make it just more efficient. Quote unquote. So obviously we don't know the exact specs of the console, and no one's opened up the console itself so far, but it could be one of those big issues where we're watching this and it could bleed into even more crashes or more issues over time, which is not something we want to go and see. A lot of folks are saying anyone who's owned a PS4 Pro for a few years kind of knows that it could have issues, where it's like just, like I said, not enough heat to kind of go and dissipate and go around, and that can definitely be a big issue and problem. And also say, wouldn't it just make sense to reduce the price of the existing models again, or release a disk drive that works through the Digital Edition's USB-C port? Of course, the PS5 leak comes from Sony's main rival, as it puts in case for the acquisition of Activision Blizzard and the mighty Call of Duty franchise. So it doesn't mean that Microsoft has inside information on a future Slim console. However, they do say it feels safe to assume the company can make a more measured guess than most. Now, I'm going to go and say that I'm not going to be too worried on it. I've seen people have issues. I'm sure some of you guys even watching this video have seen issues, or friends, or Twitter, or Reddit, or Facebook, or whatever. But in theory, I haven't seen too many groundbreaking major issues when it comes to consoles and console things. I think it's been fine. I think it's been okay. Like, we haven't seen the consoles break too much. But as we keep on getting more and more into the console's life cycle. So a good example is Final Fantasy 16. That's a very made purely for PlayStation 5 game with very good graphics, very intensive games, and also kind of like how we've seen a lot with the Diablo issues, sometimes have memory issues where like it's trying to go in and have all this backlog and cached of memories for the past like 5-6 hours of a game session. Maybe you're just a degenerate and you go play 15 hours in a row for a game release, which, I mean, even I don't do that. I'm a Twitch streamer. I don't even do that myself, but some people do. Like, you have the weekend off, you got nothing else planned, you wake up at like 10 o'clock and you go play games all day. It's for 12 hours, it's 10 o'clock the next day. If that's what you want to do on your weekend every now and then, there's nothing wrong with that. But it does going to lead to issues with your console for overheating and, well, just making sure your console's all fine at the end of the day. So, it's kind of crazy because we do know there could be issues. Like, there really could be actual issues. And especially if we keep on trying to fine tune like a bigger thing that has the occasional issue. I myself, once again, haven't really had too many myself, but try to fine tune it, that kind of may go and widespread out the overall issues for consoles because it doesn't have a chance to go and, well, fine tune. It doesn't maybe have a chance to have enough heat. Maybe it kind of cuts down on the copper wiring and the heat sinks to basically take the heat out. Maybe the fans aren't as big. Maybe just like the heat kind of builds up inside the console quicker, you know? It's kind of like if you have like a really big sauna versus like I don't know, maybe like a little pan. How about a cup? I don't know. I'm trying to get a good metaphor for you guys. You have a small cup and you fill it up with water. It'll get hot really quick. You try to go put that same thing on the stove and it's like a huge massive pot. It'll take longer because there's just more water. Hopefully that's a good enough metaphor. I probably did a bad example, but it's like, you guys probably know if you guys have cooked, you're trying to make like noodles or whatever. So if you have a bigger pot, it'll take longer for it to go and, well, heat because there's more water. So if you have that same thing with more space, in theory, maybe there's more space over there. It takes longer to heat, etc., etc. And then versus like a smaller console, unless it's very, very efficient with the outflow of heat or the copper wiring inside, which they have been trying to go and fine tune and get rid of, there could be a major issue with that too as well. But once again, we haven't seen it. Like, I'm sure Sony has thought about this. I'm sure Sony techs have worked on this, and I'm sure we've seen stuff like this nonetheless. But at the same time, it is something to be concerned on because like the bigger and better the games that come out, the more intensive they'll be on the GPU and CPU and the motherboard. I guess not really the motherboard, but whatever we're going to say inside internally, whatever. And then as that kind of goes on, it'll be harder for us to keep and maintain those really, really kind of cool temperatures, and it may actually have issues with frames, or let alone the same issues we keep on seeing right now with all these consoles having overheating issues that keep popping up for Final Fantasy 16. So I'm kind of curious on your thoughts because I'm okay with it. Like, I want them to make a Slim. I think they will probably product test this and make it fine. But at the same time, if they do not kind of go and kind of like half booty it, then what's the point? Like, if we're going to have a console that just kind of broke in, that's going to maybe go and have a lot of crashing issues, I don't think I'd want it. I think Sony's going to be fine, though. We haven't seen this being massively widespread. We saw a few issues, but nothing like that's crazy or outside the norm. So I kind of want to hear your thoughts and comments down below. Make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. I have a nice little sellout links all down below with the Twitter and Twitch and all that good stuff too, and the Amazon links as well. And I just appreciate you guys all so much for watching. Have a good rest of your nights. I'll talk to you guys all very soon.